Is it time to panic after the race we just saw at Kansas? Listen, I get that people are all over the place with it. NASCAR fans will be 50-50 on everything, but I think there's some good reasons too. But I think there's also some good reasons to stay calm and kind of put it all in perspective. I'll start at least at first at what is sort of went around social media and has kind of kicked off it. And that is the ones on the end of saying, yes, it is time to panic. And listen, I get it, man. I really get it. We were all hyped up for Kansas. I have for a while thought that this was the best track in NASCAR because of how worn out it is, the racing that's been proven to be good over time, regardless of the car or package. And when you have last year with the insane racing, I mean, the racing itself last year in the spring race especially was amazing. But then you add that in with the closest finish in NASCAR Cup Series history. 1/1000th of a second. All of those stories converging together for a great moment. Yeah, of course I'm gonna be excited. This race last year was the highest voted race ever for my poll. Something like a 95 or 96% positivity rate. Good or great is what people voted with it. The racing at Kansas in general has just been top tier with this car. Every next-gen race before this since 2022 has been awesome. Mile and a halves in general have been top tier with the next-gen car. So I get it. I get people not liking it. And to be fair, this race was okay. Do I think this race was a barn burner? No. And I think anyone saying so is fooling themselves. Do I think this race, though, was atrocious? Do I think this race was something that is an embarrassment to me as a fan and to the sport I love? No. No, it's not even close. It's nowhere close, in my opinion, to the races, say, at Bristol or Martinsville or Darlington. You name it. I think, honestly, this race was all right. I think it was a 5 or 6 out of 10. And I know that my grading system with races is a bit tougher. It's very hard for me to get to that 9 or 10 range. I think this was a maybe slightly above average race. A lot of people complained about the fact that Kyle Larson dominated, and I will admit, that really made the finish kind of sour, even if he was slowing down that last lap. It does seem like he had a flat there. But this race did have passing. There were a lot of drivers that came up through the field. There were drivers who were able to come up at the end of runs, comers and goers, stuff that we really want from NASCAR racing. On the other end, though, it was noticeably more difficult at Kansas, especially to pass. And that is something that should be, I think, watched and should be addressed if needed. But I think that leads to the side of it that says, no, this is not something to panic over. Listen, I get that this season has not been great so far. Honestly, we were a third of the way through the season. This is probably the worst opening to a season I've ever watched, quality-wise, at least with the racing. There hasn't been one of those races yet that's really blown us away. We've gotten great moments, and we got great finishes, and we've had a lot of things I think still to be positive about. Honestly, I'd still rather watch a bad NASCAR race rather than just be sitting bored on a Sunday. But on the other side of it, we as fans are clamoring for some just downright amazing racing. For the stuff we saw at mile and a halves in Kansas, especially in years past. And I think that we are just at this point kind of at the end of our ropes. We are already into the middle of May, and there really hasn't been an identity this season other than all of us complaining online. And I will say, while I have been disappointed, and I was disappointed yesterday that it wasn't as great as a lot of the other ones, I do think there's a concern that I couldn't help but remember another season that reminds me just as much of 2025 as itself, and that is 2018. Now, 2018 was a big year. I was able to start on YouTube. I was able to start more analytically looking at races without my favorite driver in the field, and it also was, I think, a turning point when it came to the direction NASCAR has gone, not only through the end of the Gen 6 era, but also this current next-gen era we're in now. The season started terribly. The racing was spread out and boring. It was the same 3 or 4 people dominating every week. I think at one point there were 2 or 3 times that somebody either won back-to-back or 3 races in a row. And honestly, it was just a lot of fatigue from us fans. The least popular guys were winning. The racing wasn't great, and we just wanted something. We didn't care what it was, just something to give us a spark in the season. Then, on a very hot summer day in Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois, we had the slide job finish between Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson, which is interesting because everyone rooted for Kyle Larson in that race as the underdog, as the guy who could vanquish Goliath, the David in the story. And now everyone hates when he wins. He has taken the mantle that Kyle Busch had at the time. And the second half of the season was really, really fun, but it was not done in enough time to hold back the changes on the horizon. The 550 horsepower package that came in 2019 and in some way stayed in the Cup Series through 2021 and nearly into this next-gen era. And I'm going to say now, that is the low point. It is not going to get worse than that. It is not worse than that right now. The short tracks are pretty bad, but let's be honest, the 550 was still worse. And nostalgia glasses might make some people think it was better. Maybe a few clips of a restart here or there, or a start at the end, or a finish that was close might make people say, well, we got to go back to something like that. No, we don't. And I think my point more here is this. NASCAR is talking about changes in the opposite direction of what the 550 horsepower package was. They're already talking about, like on Hauler Talk this past week, the possibility of going to 750, maybe even a little higher, but upping the horsepower. Will it make a huge difference? Probably not. 2026 with that change probably will look a lot like 2025, 24, 23, and 22. But it's the fact that NASCAR has changed tune. A historically stubborn amount of decision-making by the leadership possibly changing, or at least veering somewhat off the course that has been set. That is something I think to actually be positive about. That is something that I think we should glean and really push for. We need changes. We do. Massively. So I want to reiterate again. Is it time to panic about NASCAR, the next gen, the intermediates, all of it? No. I don't think panic is the right word. While the car overall and mile and a halves have diminished in quality immensely in 2025, I still think that they should take and can take big swings at this car and try and make big changes. The fact that there's any talk of adding horsepower is big, and it's a huge step in the right direction that can't be overlooked. Plus, 2025 and 2026 are years 4 and 5 of this car. It is time, no matter what generation of car, it is always time in these years to make bigger swings, to try and actually go out and make the racing better off of what's already been built. When you look at years 4 and 5 when it came to the COT, for instance, the biggest swing at making a new car before the next gen, those were 2010 and 2011. In those years, they made big changes, and we saw some pretty good racing after the fact. When you look, for instance, at years 4 and 5 with the Gen 6 car, that was 2016, 2017, heading into that 2018 side. That's when they made some big swings and started really moving in that direction. I don't think that should be overlooked. This is a pattern that NASCAR has had with every generation of car that they've made over time. So I think we just need to voice our opinions of what we think needs changed. Maybe we don't need everyone to be close together but not passing. Maybe more spread out but more ability to pass. At this point, the aero changes and the strides by Goodyear have basically gone as far as I think they can. Like I said a few weeks ago, this is all up to NASCAR. They got to make some big swings. They got to put some money down. Teams do as well. And they need to make the changes. Because there's no point in the conversations we've had about cost saving. There's no point of that if you're just going to end up losing viewers and eyes and money in the long run, and it's just going to be a downward spiral, a continuous cycle of cost cutting and more cutting around the industry until at that point you're just basically struggling to keep going in every race but the Daytona 500. So with that, I'm going to pass it to you. Are you majorly concerned about NASCAR, the next gen, or just the 1.5 miles like Kansas? Any of it or all of it? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. It means a ton to me. And until next time, have a good one.